Today on How News, we'll be covering the South African economy. At a GDP of $595.7 billion, South Africa is the 25th largest economy in the world, having the second highest GDP in Africa. We'll be assessing the extent to which South Africa meets the macroeconomic objectives of price level stability, full employment, economic growth, and equity. The first objective we'll be analyzing is price level stability. The goal is to have low inflation, which is an increase in the average price level over time. If the inflation rate is too high, there will be crazy spending, as prices will be higher day after day. If there is deflation, investment will be discouraged, as goods and services will be cheaper the next day. The desired range of the inflation rate is from 0 to 5%, where consumer confidence over price level stability is sound. South Africa, however, has a high inflation rate of 5.8%. At this rate, firms and households have lower real income and may rush to spend as soon as they can before the value of their money is eroded by higher prices. For citizens that have savings accounts, their real interest rate is also lower, as it is diminished by the high inflation rate. Banks may also raise interest rates, increasing the cost of borrowing money. Due to higher price of goods in South Africa, foreign investment will be discouraged. At this high rate of inflation, South Africa does not meet the macroeconomic objective for price level stability. The next macroeconomic objective we will look at is full employment. In order to measure and assess to which extent South Africa meets the goal of full employment, we will be measuring unemployment using the unemployment rate. Unemployment is the state of being out of work, actively seeking work, but unable to get work. South Africa has an insanely high unemployment rate of 24.9%, which is about 7 times higher than the natural rate, which is 3.5%. This could suggest that South Africa is suffering from a large amount of poverty, as 1/4 of their population is unable to find work. South Africa is still a long ways from meeting their objective of full employment. Of the 4 macroeconomic objectives, equity or lack thereof is perhaps the biggest issue in South Africa. In order to show the major inequality in the distribution of income in South Africa, we'll be using the GDP per capita statistic and the Gini index while comparing them to each other. South Africa has a per capita GDP of 11,500, which could suggest that South Africa currently has a middle-income economy, assuming that all citizens earn the same income. However, this is never the case. The extremely high Gini index of 63% shows that there is very little equality in income distribution, as 0% Gini index means full equality and 100% means full inequality. As a matter of fact, South Africa has the highest Gini index in the world. To give a clear interpretation of the lack of equity in South Africa, we will view a Lorenz curve. As we can notice, South Africa's Lorenz curve is extremely further and lower from the equality curve. The bottom 20% of South African households only have 3% of the income, while the upper 20% has more than half of the income. Judging from the high unemployment rate, high Gini index, and the Lorenz curve, we can infer that there is a lot of poverty in South Africa, that there exist major disparities in wealth and development within the nation, and that South Africa clearly does not meet the objective of equity. To show the extent to which South Africa meets the objective of economic growth, we will use the Phillips curve. Combined with a low GDP growth rate of 2% and as shown on the Phillips curve, the high inflation rate and extremely high unemployment rate could suggest that the South African economy is in recession, with an inflation rate of 5.8% and unemployment rate of 24.9%. We can therefore conclude that South Africa does not meet the macroeconomic objective of economic growth. Judging from our analysis of the extent to which South Africa meets these 4 objectives, we can conclude that South Africa does not meet any of the 4 macroeconomic objectives, as they face major problems in income distribution and unemployment. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of How News. Goodbye.